Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at the Aggro Forest decks. Why? Because Aggro Forest is, I would say, okay in the current meta. It's definitely not the best deck, especially from what I was playing in the last probably 6 to 7 games. I would say it's good against certain things, but a lot of the time you're relying on pretty heavy luck and hoping your opponent doesn't either ward you out or just completely dominate you with healing. So would I recommend this deck for laddering? Probably not. Do you want to take a break from other meta decks and play something that at least has a reasonable chance to win? Probably give Aggro Forest a try. Otherwise, I'd stick with more of the other Aggro Forest decks or even Tempo Forest decks that just do a little bit of a better job at staying alive. But this one overall, not the worst Forest deck I've played by far. If you want to see the worst Forest deck I've played, check out some of my previous videos. Some of them can be pretty shocking. Anyway, we'll get right into it and check out some games. Our first game here we have against Blood. A bit of an iffy matchup, especially if you do come up against either Control or Aggro. Aggro can tend to just beat you out, and Control, of course, with the healing and the board clears, just really isn't a fun time for most fairy decks. Of course, the Roach OTK combos usually okay, but for the most part you're just pushing as much damage as you can, so you're not relying on the Roach OTK for lethal in every single turn. Fairy Driver I found to be a very situational card, especially when running fairies like this. You're not playing it until probably turn 6, turn 7, or you're using it to end a game on, say, turn 5 if you're lucky and you've already dealt a lot of damage. So not the best option here. I basically can only play Airborne Barrage. Really not worthwhile at all, but I do get the chance to push out a couple of goblins, which, that seems okay. Of course, we do have the Roach, the Elf Song. We can proc more fairies, so that's not too much of a concern. And the only advantage against Vengeance here is the fact that they do put themselves closer to your lethal range, meaning even if they play something crazy, usually you can just dominate them. So, do make a slight mistake here. I probably would have honestly been better off evolving one of the goblins and just dealing 6. When you have double Roach in hand, the odds of you just being able to push for lethal in the following turn would be pretty high. Especially when you add the evolves on, and the fact they have to deal with the board. Righteous Devil, though, really shows that maybe it wasn't such a bad option to kill that off, just because Righteous Devil will boost them quite nicely. And of course, follow that up with Diabolic Drain, and you've got some really nice health there. Fairy Whispers, does the job, why not? Just fairies everywhere. A little bit of Elf Song. Mainly because that 5 damage is just too good to pass up. Especially with the double Roach in play. Provided, they clear the board, they're going to heal to 4. So they're going to get up to 11. Unfortunately, that Scarlet Saber makes it even harder. I really don't like when coming up against heal-orientated Blood decks when playing as a Forest. It's just not much fun to try and deal with. Especially if you can't just kill them in a single turn. Like the situation we have here is just not very good. Luckily, Fairy Driver does an okay job. We do get to take advantage of this fairy here. Trade them all off. Get rid of those, both Banes and the Drain. Meaning they're probably not going to heal much more from here, and we can set up hopefully a nice Roach play. If they don't kill this Fairy Driver as well, we can just swarm the board with fairies right to their face. So it kind of creates a forced removal. Now, Dance of Death, why not? Got plenty of room on the board too, so throwing a couple fairies down isn't going to hurt us too much. I mean, there's plenty of other cards that would be a lot worse to play here. Dark Air Jammer though, as long as they don't ward, which fortunately they didn't, then we're actually in a really nice spot. Especially going into turn 8 and now drawing Blessed Fairy Dancer. Guarantees us an extra 2 damage on top of whatever else we play here. So we're going to be able to double Roach, plus Fairy Dancer. We're not worried about the Urius, it's not going to deal anywhere near enough damage, but this is going to give us an exact lethal. So you can't ask for a much better play there.
I lost. You're tough.
Our next game, Forest versus Forest. Whew.
Time for me to prove
What a fun match this is.
the forest is angry.
Pretty okay hand. Starting off with pretty much all our good one-drop cards, especially Elfchild May against Forest. Elfchild does a good job at just really stopping them from playing an early drop. And if they don't, Water Fairy stops them from getting much value out of anything else. Especially no wasting a Sylvian Justice on a single Water Fairy that's only going to give me more fairies. Was it really that worth it?
Hey, let's play.
Especially when I can just throw the Fairy and Goblin now without really anything to contest them. Doesn't really leave much of a problem for this deck at this stage. Not so good though. Elfchild May is probably going to have to drop along with the Roach. Fortunately, during the second Roach works out in our favour, but it does mean we're risking losing some burst damage there.
Life's fate is that.
Ow!
Luckily, the turn 4 really isn't that impressive. I mean, a Woodland Brambles with nothing on board doesn't feel that great to me. Especially now that I can just flood myself with fairies while throwing any evolves out I want.
You're done for.
To try and distract from the May, put more focus on getting rid of that fairy. And I do hold the fairies in case I want to take advantage of either Fairy Driver or the Roach.
Hey, let's play.
I mean, either way, it's going to be pretty good. Not so lucky though. Goblin Mage, Fina. No, God, just Goblin Mage. Goblin Mage, God knows, probably drew a Roach, honestly. And then they get to deal with the Elfchild May. But they don't say go all in for no reason. Elf Girl Liza, just protecting our entire board from any kind of mass damage. Well, at the same time, Fairy Whispers evolved. Gives us that little bit of damage we might need. I could have hopefully comboed some fairies with the Fairy Driver, but with the way this match was going, I really needed to rush in a little bit more. And even if I draw a return for that Roach, I should be okay.
I'm gonna rest for a bit.
So they do leave up the 3 fairies. That's pretty good, especially now that I've drawn an extra Roach. I mean, from here, it's just a matter of really surviving. I do decide to trade the 1 just because I can get more value out of these Roaches here. This game is a little risky, I guess I could say. We are at 20, so we're not at too big a risk of dying in the next turn, maybe, as long as I don't have some crazy Roach return combo. Which, if they did, I would have expected to come out right now. And luckily they didn't clear both Roaches, at least not in this way. Of course, there's their own Roach, but they decided to use it as a trade, so a little odd, honestly. Not what I would have done. I wouldn't have done that. And removing their entire board with H and Elf, well, good for me, may not have been so good for them. I don't really have any reason to play Fairy Driver, especially since I can actually use it to my advantage later on if I draw into any kind of fairy summoning cards. But the main thing I'm waiting on is probably Dance of Death. With 3 of them in the deck and 29 cards left, we've got about a 1 in 10 chance of drawing it. Maybe just slightly better than that. And luckily, it appears right where we need it, scoring us that last 2 damage that we needed. And now our final game, one that I didn't expect to honestly win against Sword. I mean, it's Sword. They're one of the high-end aggro decks, right up there with Blood, which is usually pretty tough to beat. Jump in the entire hand just because I want something to deal with early Sword. And just a really poor hand here. There's really nothing that shows any real advantage, at least not yet. The Elf-Child May just feels really bad. And it's just not worth using Airbound Barrage on it. But at least now, we've kind of got a reason. And with Fairy Whispers being able to give us some fairies, we may be able to make some form of comeback. And at least that Hedgehog isn't going to cause us any more problems. I would hate to have to deal with that Hedgehog constantly. But they do get a pretty good start at just, you know, killing me off. But with turn 4 being next, I guess it's not the biggest worry in the world. I mean, they're probably just going to strike face as much as they can. Get as much damage on the board, sort of thing. And I have got Dance of Death, which next turn actually does an okay job at removing that 4/4 and hopefully meaning I can survive the next turn. Especially since turn 5, the most they can really deal is going to be 6 with double Juliet. So I've got 9 damage total once you include the board to my face, puts me to 3. I have got a Roach and double Blessed Fairies going into turn 6, which is okay. Not quite got the board space to do that, but the Elf Song does basically the same thing as Blessed Fairy, so along with bolstering everything quite nicely. This should put us in well over lethal range once you do play out this combo. So I do play the Roach first, just because Blessed Fairy is going to boost it anyway. Either way around would have been pretty much identical for that Roach, as long as the fairy card came last, the Elf card, and more than enough damage. We're actually 3 over lethal with 16 on board turn 6. Pretty good combo, a little bit risky, but worked out in the end. So, as you just saw, this deck definitely has its riskier points. I wouldn't be taking it to anything crazy in ranked. This deck is more just, it was part of an experiment, I guess. I wanted to try it out, give it a go, show it off, give you guys my thoughts on it. That's the main thing about it. Other than that, it's worth a shot if you've got all the cards to make it. It's not an extremely expensive deck. You've only got a handful of golds. That's about it. Everything else is bronze or silver, which most players these days should have, especially since there's so many bronzes in this deck. And it does work on Master, at least a 50% win rate, I would say, over a reasonable pool. So hope you guys enjoyed the games, and you can check out the deck list in the description below if you want to give this deck a go. Hit that like button and subscribe, and I will catch you guys next time. See ya.